Hello, my name's David Johnson from West System International. Today in this video I'd like to pass on some information, very valuable information for anybody using West System epoxy. Epoxy resin has revolutionised boat building and repair and renovation methods throughout the globe. Epoxy construction for renovation or repair makes a boat more water resistant, lighter, more durable. Consequently, there's less maintenance involved. With over 50 years of continuous improvement and innovation, the West System epoxy is now the chosen epoxy resin for just about every boat builder around the world, whether it's new build, renovation or restoration. And it's suited for a wide variety of surfaces: wood, GRP, steel, concrete. It will work with every type of fibre reinforcement: glass, carbon fibre, Kevlar or aramid fibres, and it can be used for bonding, filling, fairing, coating, laminating and sheathing. Very, very versatile. We created the West System 101 mini pack to offer first time and small scale epoxy users all the epoxy products and accessories they need for basic repairs and maintenance around a boat in one small, convenient, cost-effective pack. The contents are fantastic. Within the pack you have two fillers. You have the 403 microfibres, perfect for making wood joints, a very high density filler, immensely strong when mixed with West System epoxy. And you also have the low density filler. This is perfect for making a rough surface nice and smooth, in other words filling it prior to sanding it fair. It's also incredibly good for making lightweight fillets in a small sailing dinghy or small motorboat. You have 3 measuring pots which are calibrated so that it's very easy to metre out the correct 5:1 ratio. 3 of those. And you have, for your own personal health and safety, 2 pairs of nitrile gloves. You have 2 syringes, which are also very, very valuable for metering out the resin and hardener mix at the 5:1 ratio. Excellent for very, very small amounts of mix. You have 2 West System mixing sticks. These are polypropylene mixing sticks. They have a radius end for creating a fillet, and they have a chisel point on the other end for cleaning up after yourself as well. They can be reused for quite a number of times. If you look after them, you can break the cured West System epoxy off by flexing them and then throw away the waste and reuse these. Very, very good indeed. And then of course you have the 105 resin and you have the 205 hardener. On the packaging you'll notice that there is a sticker on the hardener around here which gives the batch number, and it also gives the use by date. You'll find that the same is true on the resin. There is the batch number and the use by date. Both of these products, the West System 105 resin and the 205 hardener, have a 2-year shelf life from the moment we manufacture them. Also within the pack you have some fairly comprehensive instructions, and these are a kind of very fast route through the West System brand of products. If you require more information, look on our website. It's a fantastic source of information. Very important to have a good environment to work with. Your workshop needs to be clean, dry, free from dust. If you can wear a t-shirt comfortably, that is around about the kind of environment you need to be working in. You're not too hot, not too cold, and you'd feel if the environment was damp, and you'd also feel if it was dusty. Very important. If you're working outside, you can tent an area off and bring in some localised dry heat. Very important that you use a dry source of heat, so not propane nor diesel heating, both of those methods create a lot of excess moisture in the environment, and they will really compromise your work. They'll create lots of amine blush, and they will compromise the bond between layers of subsequent coats of West System epoxy. And the first thing that we would want to do is prepare ourselves for working with West System epoxy, and that involves wearing some durable gloves. Very important to avoid skin contact. If you do get skin contact with the resin and hardener mix, it's very important that you don't clean it off with solvent. If you use solvent, it will force the resin and hardener back into your skin. If you get epoxy on your skin, wash it off with copious amounts of soapy water or our West System hand cleaning solution. It's very important to mix the West System resin and hardener at a 5:1 ratio. You can do that by weight or volume. So small weighing scales are fine, but for very small amounts, these syringes that are supplied in the mini pack are perfect. But it's a very good idea to mark each one with an R for resin and an H for hardener, so they don't get cross-contaminated. And that way we can then mix up a very small quantity. In fact, we can mix up 6 millilitres. Really perfect quantity for very small repairs on a boat, or perfect for model makers. I'll just use the syringe to draw some material into the body. 5 millilitres of resin. And 1 millilitre of hardener. Really handy gauge here is the 30 millilitre mark. So if we meter out the resin up to 25 millilitres and then add the hardener up to the 30 millilitre mark, we're going to get a 30 millilitre mix exactly at the 5:1 ratio. If you do that fairly accurately, you'll always get good results. Now I'm being very accurate here. So I'm getting my 25 millilitres of resin and my 5 millilitres of hardener. It's important to mix this, the resin and hardener mix thoroughly. It's very important to get a completely homogeneous mix of the two materials. They look very different together. The hardener has a slight amber colour and the resin has exceptional clarity. It's important that you mix these together, because without that you cannot guarantee that West System will cure. It must be mixed thoroughly. We suggest that you mix for 3 minutes. Make sure that whilst you're mixing, you mix right into the corners of the mixing pot. It's very important that the next day, when your mixed epoxy has cured, that you roll the pot and break out the waste. And if you see a small residue of uncured resin and hardener mix in the bottom of the pot, you're not mixing sufficiently. Very good check on your own work. Bit of quality control. Now I've mixed this up, and a really good question to ask is, how long will I have before this starts curing? Well, actually this amount will start to gel, which is the onset of the full cure, in around about 15 to 20 minutes at about 20 to 22 degrees C. Now you can extend that working time by decanting the volume into another pot and creating 2 smaller volumes. A really good way of extending your working time by about 5 or 10 minutes. Surface preparation is very important. Surfaces need to be clean, dry, free from dust, oil or any contamination, and well abraded. Plywood tends to have a release agent on the surface. It's a very good idea to sand plywood and ensure that you've removed all the dust before you bring the bond together, either for a joint or for a fillet or for lat strake construction in a plywood dinghy. Surfaces like teak need to be cleaned with acetone and free from dust, and abraded also to lift the wood fibre. This technique illustrates some of the processing of stitch and glue construction on a small plywood dinghy. The stitching part is done with electrical cable ties. Generally that's the method adopted nowadays. So we stitch the panels together. Pull them nice and tight, and that really tensions up your two opposing panels. And for this demonstration I'll just cut the end of the zip tie away. Now, one of the techniques involved in stitching glue is to create a fillet. A fillet is a cove of thickened epoxy that becomes a structural component of the whole boat construction. It's a method of joining panels together in a very, very lightweight, efficient way. And for that we need to use our West System resin and hardener. But on a small dinghy we can use our low density filler. Our low density filler is a very lightweight filler, really intended for filling and fairing. But on a small dinghy this will create a very lightweight, very strong fillet that is actually stronger than the surrounding plywood panels. Now, to make this thickened mix we want a really robust thickness. We target viscosities within the West System technical information as syrup, ketchup, mayonnaise and peanut butter. That's very easy to understand. Syrup is just the resin and hardener mix. Ketchup is a little bit more filler added, mayonnaise a little bit more still, and peanut butter is really thick and capable of standing upright without slumping. In fact, it will stay on your mixing stick upside down, and that's how a very good test, that's how thick it wants to be, that's how you test for the correct viscosity. We need to add our filler to get us to our peanut butter consistency, and we do that by adding a little bit more than twice the volume of filler to the mixed epoxy. And you can see here that I have roughly twice the volume. Tip that straight in. And you'll instantly think, I'm going to struggle to mix this together. But if you persevere, I always find that if you just push the mixing stick in to start with, then the filler powder doesn't fly away. It's important not to breathe this in. Just spend a bit of time. You have to have some patience just to blend the two together. And very quickly we start to get a mix that is very, very firm, very much like smooth peanut butter, and suitable for making our fillet. You can see now it's actually starting to get nice and stodgy. And you see from that almost impossible looking blend of filler and resin hardener mix, we've now got almost instantly a very nice smooth but very, very stable filler mix. You can see how this hangs on the mixing stick and doesn't fall off, and it creates nice peaks that don't slump. Very important, because we don't want our fillet to slump into an odd shape. Fillets are really very much part of the aesthetic of a modern wood, plywood, epoxy construction. So it's very important to keep them nice and neat. Now what you can do is, with a nice clean mixing stick, is you can just take a nice amount on your mixing stick and just apply that to our fillet joint. And the first step is to get the material in place. It's quite a good idea to do this and use up all the material and then come back and tidy it up. That way it will give you far more working time. If you leave this material in the pot, then it's a good idea just to smooth the filler mix around the outside of your pot, and that will extend the working time just a little bit. Once you've got all your filler mix in place, then it's important that you create a really nice neat fillet. And we do that by bisecting the angle of our panels, and also holding the mixing stick perpendicular to the work, like that. And drawing the mixing stick along, putting the waste back in the pot, and we've now got a very neat, symmetrical fillet. We need to clean that up, and we clean that up with the chisel point on the other end of the plastic mixing stick. I told you that these were very, very neat. Replace the waste, and now we have a very, very neat epoxy fillet, a combination of West System 105, 205 resin and hardener mix, and 407 low density filler. This will make a very, very strong fillet on small plywood dinghies. For more advanced techniques, we would really advocate best practice, a technique that we refer to as two-step bonding. Two-step bonding is very simple. We prime a porous surface with the West System resin and hardener mix and let that wick into the plywood before then creating a fillet. Now, to do that with our mini pack, we really need to purchase some West System glue brushes. And two-step bonding focuses on brushing the resin and hardener mix into the porous surface before we use a secondary technique. So we can use that very effectively with our filleting process, and we can brush the resin and hardener mix on, and you can see the plywood changing colour as the resin and hardener mix wicks in. Now we would want to do this and then leave the coating to tack slightly. And the reason we leave the coating to tack is that we want it to grip our fillet and not allow the mixing stick and the filler to skid over the surface, which is what will happen. So we can go around and prime a work area in 10-15 minutes, walk away, have a cup of tea, have a break, and come back to this in a short while. To illustrate the strength of our fillet joint, here's another joint that I prepared yesterday actually, and I'll just show you how strong this can be. And if you look at where the failure is, it's within the plywood and not within the fillet joint. You will no doubt ask where you can get a West System 101 mini pack, and it's very, very readily available through our stockist list in the UK, through our distribution network throughout Europe. If you need any more technical information, then please telephone our technical services. We pride ourselves on our ability to answer any kind of question, big or small, relating to West System epoxies.